Alright fellas, what's going on? Denonu here, the man with black privilege. And we're back with a new episode review of Legends of Tomorrow. And in this episode, this was the future episode, where they actually got stranded, I don't know how many years. It was like, what, 20, 47, something like that. But it was like 20, 30, 40, 50 years ahead of the present. And they had to fix their ship, but they didn't have the correct parts. So they had to pretty much look for, I forget what they called it, but it was something that their ship needed, that the Gideon needed in order to work right. And the only place they could find it was Felicity's company, was working on something like that. So they wanted to steal it from her. And it turns out that component was in a warehouse or something that they had to break into to actually steal. It was like a storage warehouse. But before they knew that, they came into the excuse me, I'm trying to speak and talk at the same time, but I'm trying to remember what it is that happened. Before they found out where that device was, they basically came upon the future version of the Green Arrow, which turns out was Diggle's son. For some reason, something happened. I think they called it the Uprising. 15 years ago, before the Legends crew got there, Slade Wilson's son, Grant Wilson, came to the town with a bunch of people, took it over. Never really fully explained how that happened. I was kind of upset about that. And basically everybody, the whole city went to shit. And something happened with Oliver where everybody thought he was dead. So he wasn't around to be Green Arrow. So Diggle's son picked up the Green Arrow mantle in his place and was, doing the whole "you have failed this city" thing, kind of like what he did. And in doing that, they eventually met Oliver, who it turns out wasn't dead, obviously. And he's the one who told them where this component that they were looking for, where it was. And they eventually found out where he was, because Diggle's son was like, look, the only place I know where Felicity's stuff is still located at is Green Arrow's headquarters. And they obviously went there. The place was all shrouded in smoke, all dilapidated. It had plastic covering the couches and all that stuff. And they eventually found Oliver there, so he was basically pulling a Batman, stewing in his Batcave, so to speak. And he didn't want him there. He told him to leave, yada, yada, yada. Something happened with him during this uprising that kind of broke in his spirit, so to speak. Also, his arm was missing. They never really fully jump into that. They just say that Deathstroke's son, I'm assuming he cut it off, because at the end of the episode he says, "I took your arm." So, but they never said what actually broke Oliver, because I have a hard time believing that somebody who is, let's say, so determined in what he does, to where if he loses an arm, he will pretty much be just like the Green Arrow from the comic books, where it's like, okay, I lose an arm, I'm still gonna do me. Your arm doesn't really define you, it's who you are. That's what I'm trying to come across. And they basically, White Canary had to kind of beat that into him later on when she needed his help. But after he told him where the component was, they went to that warehouse, they found it, but they were jumped by Deathstroke's son people, and they were fighting them and everything like that. And during the fight, White Canary and Rip actually got backup from Heatwave and Captain Cold. And then, but what else happened? Diggle's son got kidnapped. He was taken and everything. And then that set up the last part of the episode. However, but before that, Captain Cold and Heatwave was with White Canary and Rip Hunter at the beginning of the episode. They got split up from them, and they kind of went off and did their own thing. Heatwave tried to, well, he didn't try to, he did. But basically, while they were off by themselves, they were going to go rob this bank that they passed. They got jumped by the local gang, not Deathstroke's son's people, but just the local gang that was, doing, I guess, vandalism and stuff like that. They got jumped by them, and in doing so, the guy, the leader of this gang, tried to step up to Captain Cold and Heatwave, and Heatwave put him down. So he took over being the gang's leader and everything, and in doing so, he wanted to stay in this plausible future because this was everything that he wanted. Anarchy, no heroes to stop him, survival of the fittest, so this was what he wanted, so he wanted to stay. Captain Cold didn't want that because he needs his help to try to stop Savage along with everybody else, and he's slowly becoming his determining factor on the team. Not just I'm just a criminal, I want to steal shit. He's starting to come on board emotionally to everybody else and doing it for the noble reason of doing it. And Heatwave is on the other end of that spectrum where he doesn't care about none of that stuff. He wants to just do his own thing. So they had kind of not necessarily a falling out, but they had a misunderstanding where they were about to draw their guns on each other, but then they stopped and was like, all right, well, after we rescue our peoples, then we're going to come back and have this conversation. So back to where I was at before, where Diggo's son gets kidnapped. That's where they pick up this conversation. And basically, Heatwave is telling him, look, I want to stay, here are my reasons. And Captain Cold is telling him, no, look, you shouldn't stay because we got to stop Savage and we got to do this, we got to do that. And they they couldn't come to terms. They didn't fight per se, but Captain Cold knocked out Heatwave. It was like, I forget why, but he turned around and he took this thing he had in his hand and smacked him in the back of the head with it, knocked him out. They took him back to the ship and put him in the brig, and he came there and was talking to him, about the whole thing. And he woke up, he was pissed, ready to fight him, but he didn't. He fully explained why he did it, and they had another talk, and they still didn't come eye to eye, but this kind of sort of shook their foundation that they have as being partners. I think Heatwave said something to him like, if he ever hit him again, he's gonna burn him or something like that. So their foundation that they have of always being partners is kind of shook, which I find pretty cool, because every time I see them together in the scene, it just reminds me of Prison Break. So it's kind of cool to see them, having their own screen time together and stuff like that. I really like that a lot. Fast forward to the end of the episode, they eventually find out that Slade's son has John Diggle Jr. They have him kidnapped and stuff, and they're gonna kill him for some reason, since he was attacking them and stuff like that. So they're gonna kill him and make a public spectacle out of things. And while they were doing that, White Canary went back to Oliver and was like, yo, look, we need your help. It is what it is. I don't care why you're doing all this. We need your help. And she kind of talked him into helping her out. And earlier on the episode, when they first went there, they showed this futuristic prosthetic, if you want to call it anything. It didn't look cybernetic or anything. It just looked like I guess it's supposed to be cybernetic, but by this being a TV show, maybe they don't have the budget, to actually put the CG in like that. But they showed it spinning and stuff like that. When he put it on, basically when he showed up to the fight at the end of the episode, dressed up, as Green Arrow and everything, they showed the joints of his mechanical arm spinning and stuff like that. So he basically had a cybernetic arm in place of his regular arm that was cut off. And they all fought each other. As they were fighting, the other teammates, Rip Hunter earlier wanted to leave when the ship was fixed because he didn't want everybody else to stay here and mess up their thing that they have going with Savage, and to even mess up their future any more than they already did. However, once all the fighting started and stuff, they all came in as backup, cleaned up all of Slade's people. I want to say they not Slade's people, I'm sorry, Slade's son's people. And then they basically beat him up, tied him up, and then they left. However, but before they left, they had a kind of moment with Oliver Queen where he, this renewed, his spirits, so to speak. So he was going to start helping John Diggle Jr. to, I guess, protect what's left of, Star City and everything. And also, just because it was like it wasn't a big part of the episode, but Dr. Stein was playing matchmaker this episode, where Jefferson was trying to get with 𝐥𝐤𝐤, and then 𝐥𝐤𝐤 was also talking to the Atom. So he was being nice with Jefferson, like, yo, you have to have confidence, don't just assume that she likes him and just gonna do it. And as he was talking to him and stuff, things were going good on that, but she ended up talking to the Atom too. So then he was like, oh crap, he was giving them both advice about getting with 𝐥𝐤𝐤, and then he kind of saw that later on the end of the episode. I don't think it ever went anywhere, but maybe that's something that they're going to explore later on down the line in future episodes. But overall, this episode was it was pretty good. It wasn't the most in-depth character episode like they've been having over the past couple weeks, but it was pretty good, and I like all of the throwaway names from the comic books that they mentioned. The fact that Oliver Queen has one arm is a callback to the whole Frank Miller thing where he was in that and shot Superman with that kryptonite arrow, so that was pretty cool. And it's finally nice to see Green Arrow wear the goatee, even though in this episode it was more of a beard, not a goatee. Maybe this is a step further. Maybe in the next season of Green Arrow, maybe he'll be rocking a goatee and actually have jokes and stuff, kind of like how he used to be in the comic books and with the Justice League. I mean, I would be glad to see that. But anyway, guys, hope you guys have been enjoying this little review. I'm gonna try to keep up with them every week. I know I was late last week with last week's episode, but this episode should be coming out the next morning, right after the show airs. So I'm gonna try to make that my formula when it comes to these reviews. I'm gonna try to put them up either that night they come out, or if at the latest the following morning. So please be on the lookout for more. My name is Denonu, the man with the biggest and the most blackest privilege on YouTube, and I'll see you guys in the next episode review. Peace out.